Your live interactive coverage with CBS Austin News begins now.
Yes, it does. Hello. Thank you so much for joining us for Chats with Alli and JC. I'm Allison Miller.
And I'm John Carlos Estrada today with the total solar eclipse just days away, 6 days away, passing through here, Central Texas on April 8th. We're diving deeper into this celestial event.
Yeah, this has been such a fun topic to cover over the past month or so. Joining us this morning to chat about it, we have Dr. Mary Kay Johnston and Antoinette McConnell. They're both with Concordia University. Thank you guys both for taking some time to chat with us. Can you give tell us a little bit about you? We'll start with Dr. Johnston.
All right. Hello, I'm Mary Kay Johnston, and I'm a professor here at Concordia University Texas for the past 13 years now, and I'm a professor of biology and environmental science.
My name is Antoinette McConnell. I am a student here at Concordia University in my senior year. I am a biology major with an expectation to go into a teaching career.
Oh, very nice. Well, that works out. Dr. Johnston, let's start with you a little bit because you've witnessed 5 of these eclipses in all different locations. You're about to see your 6th one. Kind of tell us about your experiences with those.
Oh my gosh, solar eclipses are some of the most beautiful natural phenomena that you will ever see. They're rare. They're enchanting. They're so dependent on the weather. And at the same time, you're in nature and you can see all of these different things going on in the outdoors. My very first eclipse was in Oklahoma. That's where I'm from. And it was an annular eclipse at that time, and it had tracked right through where I live. So I was able to be at my grandparents' house. I was able to be with my family, and that was like super, super special for me. And then I've also seen eclipses in Missouri in 2017. And I think a number of people probably traveled for that one. It was the Great American Eclipse a couple of years ago. And after that, I got hooked on the bug, the eclipse chasing bug. It was awesome. So I decided to go to Argentina. I took a full tour through South America. I went to Chile, I went to Peru, and then we had the eclipse itself in Argentina. And it was really cool. It was like this huge party. Everybody was excited. People from all of the world were there. I got to meet some really, really great friends from across the world. So eclipses, in a sense, bring so many people together. And then at the eclipse day itself, I was on a llama farm. I know. So there were like llamas walking around and they were decorated with like the little puffy things and all of that. There was dancing, there was food, there was events. And the eclipse happened low in the sky. So you got to see the mountains shadowed by the eclipse. And it looked like twilight, like a 360-degree view of twilight. It was really, really cool. And then after that, I decided to take it one step further. I got a sabbatical. Now, as a biologist, I'm really interested in how organisms around the world are distributed. I'm really interested in those natural processes that allow organisms to be where they are. So I went to the extreme. For my sabbatical, I went to Antarctica to observe the plants and the animals and to see a solar eclipse from the Weddell Sea. To get to our eclipse location, that was a little bit more difficult because we had to position ourselves like through the Drake Passage, through these enormous waves that were like 25 feet high. And here on the screen, you can see one of those pictures from the day of the eclipse. And the pool was moving, it was rocking, it was splashing, but it was fantastic. Even though we were a little bit clouded out, we still got to see images of the solar disk through the clouds. So I really want to make this impression. I really want to let everyone know in Austin that even though it's forecasted to be a little cloudy, we're still going to get a show. We are still going to get a show. Do not think that just because there's going to be some clouds that you're totally out of luck. We still got this. Definitely still got this. And then the most recent eclipse that I went to, so that was number 5, we were in Sonora, Texas, doing a little radio astronomy research. I got into radio astronomy because of some of my professional development activities. Like I've always been really passionate about astronomy and doing some extra stuff. So I've done a number of faculty development workshops at Green Bank Observatory in West Virginia, learning a little bit about radio astronomy, how it works, how the utility works, and especially in the classroom, especially bringing it to my students. And then Antoinette, so great, she's an awesome student. She decided to come on with me and to do this really awesome eclipse research for the annular that we had in October. You want to talk about it?
Yes. So at the time, I was actually an education major here at Concordia, and one of my requirements was to take an astronomy class. Dr. Johnson was so kind to lead that class for me, and it just so happened to line up perfectly with the annular eclipse. So what we were really investigating here was our atmosphere and understanding how does the sun interact with Earth's upper atmosphere, and how is that interfering or affecting our telecommunications here on Earth. So we had this perfect opportunity. Dr. Kenneth Carell at Angela State University was so kind to let us use his property to set up our antennas on, and it was a beautiful day.
And a sheep farm.
On a sheep farm, second farm for you. You can't see them, but in the background, there's a herd of sheep behind us. And but it was my first eclipse experience altogether, and it was especially exhilarating for me because I was not only getting to experience the eclipse, I was getting to see what's typically the invisible side of the eclipse, the things that we don't see with just the visible light spectrum. So it was really cool. And I'm excited because we're going to continue the same experiment with this upcoming eclipse. We'll be setting up the same radio telescope and looking at the total eclipse versus the annular eclipse to see what is that difference in the radiation that's coming to Earth when more of the sun is blocked out, when only the corona is visible.
Can you guys share with us a little bit of the science behind an eclipse? What are we going to experience in a few days?
Absolutely, 100%. We've kind of given you a taste that eclipses are more than just the sun and the moon, but it's also about us. So let's talk about how those three bodies interrelate to each other. At its most simplest, the moon is crossing in between the Earth and the sun and creating a shadow on the Earth. It only happens when there's a new moon, because in order for there to be a new moon, the moon has to be on the side of the Earth that experiences daytime. So if you look outside in the morning in the next couple of days, you're going to see that moon waning in the early hours of dawn, and it's going to get smaller and smaller and smaller. Now, the distances that we're dealing with are extreme. The Earth is big. The moon is pretty big too, but the sun is enormous. Let's do a little demonstration. Imagine in your head that I've got a mustard seed and I've got an okra seed. That okra seed represents about the size of the Earth. And most people have eaten okra, so probably know what an okra is. And then a tiny, tiny mustard seed. Now, if this was a scale model, those two would have to be about 8 inches apart. So remember during the Apollo missions when we actually went to the moon and we had manned crewed missions, it took them about 3 days to get there, even though they were going faster than any human has ever gone. It takes 3 days because that's a really huge distance in comparison to those bodies. Now, in order for the moon to block out the solar disk, that sun has got to be far away. I want you to imagine in your head a distance of more like 2.5 feet. That would be the diameter of the sun. It's huge. And in our little scale model, it would be across a soccer field, all the way at the end of that soccer field. So these distances are huge. And on top of that, the plane that the moon moves around the Earth is canted. It's tilted just a little bit from the Earth. So that makes a solar eclipse a little bit more rare, a lot more rare, actually. And we can predict the cycles of these eclipses using computations about the angle of the moon off of the ecliptic plane, as well as things called Soros cycles. So we are in for a real treat, I think. Yeah, definitely. Does that help explain it?
Yes. Yeah, that was interesting. Me over here Googling, what was it? Orca?
Okra seeds.
Okra.
Okra
Like in gumbo?
seeds. Okay, yeah. So this is right up your alley, Dr. Johnston. Tracking the human and animal experience during the eclipse. I know we've read a little bit and we've talked a little bit about listening to the environment when the eclipse happens because something strange happens with the animals. Can you talk more about this?
Oh, absolutely. So if you listen at night in your backyard, you hear birds, you hear crickets, you hear all of this little life going on. Now, those little animals only make those sounds when the light gets a little bit more dim, it's a little bit more shaded. The interesting thing is that during a solar eclipse, the light itself also changes quality. It does get dimmer. It tricks all of those different little animals into doing those same behaviors that they would normally do during the daytime, or sorry, that they would normally do during the evening. So what you're going to hear, what you're going to see is you're going to see all of these little organisms making their same sounds that they would make at twilight. You're going to see birds flying like they would at twilight. And even I saw a bat in Missouri. So pay attention to the world around you. It's going to look like sunset all the way around. You're going to hear crickets. You're going to hear bird calls. You might even hear some frogs every once in a while if you're near some water. It's going to be really, really cool.
We're just 6 days away. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say that during the annular eclipse, we had experienced something similar where as the moon was passing through the sun and we reached annularity, we noticed that the birds had stopped flying around as much. It wasn't fully dark, it was dimmer, but the insects themselves had begun doing different chirps. They were the evening cycle chirps. So yeah, there's definitely more at play than just what's happening up in the sky. We're very in tune here on Earth in what is happening with our sun. So it's definitely worth paying attention to everything around you.
Yeah, I remember during the last partial eclipse, it got really chilly as it was happening too. So, what are some tips that people can do while they're watching the total solar eclipse in a couple of days? We have a couple of days to prepare. I know a lot of people have been texting me, I need to find glasses. I need to find glasses. What else can they do to prep to watch it?
One of the biggest things that I would suggest is that if we do get a clear day, is to set your cameras up to record video. Be sure that you are not messing around with your phones. The eclipse in Austin is only going to be for about a minute and a half. That goes by so fast. It goes by in the blink of an eye. Please embrace it. Please be in the moment when you see that eclipse. Don't be messing around with technology. Be with each other and have a really good time with it. And even if it is cloudy, you're still going to see it get super dark. Mm-hmm. You're still going to see some of those natural effects around you, even if it is cloudy. And I'm really glad that Antoinette is going to do her radio telescope project, because even if it's cloudy, it's still going to happen.
Yes.
Yes.
Even with the clouds, a lot of the electromagnetic spectrum is invisible and transmits through it. It's transparent.
Yep.
Yeah. So.
Oh, very cool. Those are such great tips. And I'm going to be with my kids too, and they always ask a ton of questions. So now I feel like I have some good answers to give them. Like, Mama talked to some experts. Okay, so Antoinette, let's talk to you about this. I mean, first of all, it's so fun to watch the two of you because you both have this excitement you can tell about the eclipse. You've seen a few as well, then, Antoinette.
This is my that I will see as a full eclipse. I think the one that passed through Oklahoma a while ago, we saw a partial eclipse here in Texas, if I'm not mistaken. Or it might have been
2017 is where we had a partial in Austin.
Okay, then that was the one that I did see a partial eclipse at that point, which, we did the fun little hole in the paper and watch the shadows on the ground change. And but this will be my second full eclipse, my first total eclipse. But yeah, so I'm very excited for it.
Okay, so you're actually working on a project with NASA about this. Can you kind of tell us what's going on? I see some of these slides that we have with a lot of words. Can you tell us a little bit in layman's terms what this is about?
Sure. So the project itself is titled the Radio Jove Project, and it actually encompasses a number of investigations that NASA is holding, including investigations of the sun itself, investigations on Jupiter, investigations of our galactic background, that microwave background, and then finally looking at Earth's atmosphere and using things like the eclipse to understand what is going on up there. So the way it works is NASA recruits citizen scientists. So these are just everyday people who are interested in investigating the world around them and the space around us in our solar system. We set up our telescopes, we record our data, and we share it back to NASA, who then compiles it and uses it as a full data set to really see what is going on across the globe in these various areas. So.
Antoinette, you've gotten awards for some of your research. Can you sort of tell us more about that?
Yes, so we took this to the Texas Academy of Science convention at the beginning of March. And I was doing it honestly for the fun of it, just to have the experience. I wasn't expecting anything from it, especially because I was coming from an education background. I did not feel confident in my knowledge against physics majors. So I was really surprised when I won the first one, to be completely truthful. But I think also there was the excitement of the eclipse that kind of coupled with it, being able to really see this novel research. Not a lot of people work with radiotelescopy. It's hard to get access to the really big telescopes, the radio telescopes, because you need so much space for them. But there are these options, these antennas that you can use to see some of the smaller scale stuff, like what's going on with the sun and what's going on with Jupiter. And while we were there, we were invited then to participate with the American Association of Physics Teachers convention, which was in Charleston. So at Charleston University. And I ended up winning that one too. So I was very happy with it, very blessed to be recognized for my work, my research, and really appreciative to Dr. Johnson for even allowing me this opportunity. So.
She's being very humble. She knocked it out of the park. She was awesome. The way she talked to those judges, she has really invested a lot of time and effort. And I'm really blessed to have her as one of my students, and that she wanted to put so much time and effort into this project and learn so much. She's going to be an educator, y'all. Like, one of the best things that we can do is have educators at the elementary and the secondary levels who are competent and engaged and who can do this stuff and who are into doing this stuff with their students. So I'm super, super happy that you're going to be doing all this.
Thank you. Yes, that was actually something that I had looked at on a secondary level. One of the cool things about Radio Jove is that even if you cannot set up the telescope itself, NASA has a program for teachers to bring this into their classroom. So you can, kind of piggyback off of somebody else's telescope and take these readings and make physics and astronomy inside of your high school classrooms really applicable to your students. So it's not just like, well, why do I need to understand frequency and wavelength? I can see now what that relationship is, and in a way that is not just cool and fascinating, but it is affecting me personally too, right?
Yeah, that is very cool. And I mean, excited, engaged teachers make all the difference. I mean, it changed my career path because of my teachers. Nina, by the way, posted in one of the comments saying no classes April 8th, please. And I know a lot of schools are canceling class on April 8th because of this. And I know parents who are taking their kids out of school to see this. So check with your school. They might be out. Antoinette, I wanted to ask you, just maybe recap. You may have touched on this a little bit, but with the research you're doing with the eclipse, what's kind of the overarching goal? What do you hope to get out of it? What's the takeaway for us? Does that make sense?
Yes. So to really understand this, you need to understand what's going on in our ionosphere and how that's affecting telecommunications here on Earth. So the ionosphere is this upper part of our atmosphere. It's about 50 to 100, 150 kilometers above the surface of the Earth. And it acts as this sort of like two-sided mirror. On one side, it's reflecting solar radiation away from Earth. So it's keeping us safe from all those really big bad rays that could hurt us. But down here on Earth, We use it to send our long distance telecommunications. So this is stuff like HF radio, satellites, our cell phones use this, and it's very dependent on solar radiation. The more the sun hits it, the more ionized these particles become, which allow free electrons to kind of shoot off. If it gets too dense, it actually loses its reflectivity. And if it's not dense enough, it also loses reflectivity. So there's this very sweet middle spot where we can use it to send messages globally in the way that we do now. So understanding the relationship of this area on the sun, how quickly this area is being influenced by the sun, helps us to make better predictions on, things that could potentially affect it. For example, solar flares. I'm sure everyone remembers a few weeks ago, at the beginning of March, when AT&T satellites went down. It just so happened that the Wednesday night before and the Thursday, the day of the satellite crash, there were 2 solar flares that happened. And so it was speculated that these potentially could have knocked out the ability of these satellites to transmit solar reception. And that's why all of AT&T across the US was not receiving or transmitting. So understanding this relationship and really knowing how we can counteract events like that, especially if it were a critical event. I think back in 2012, there was a solar flare that was strong enough that it could have completely knocked out communications across Earth. We just got lucky that it went in the opposite direction of us. But had it hit us, we would still be feeling the repercussions of that. So it's really an important and dynamic area to investigate. And that's what this research is leaning towards, is helping NASA and our communications globally to understand how they're using this area and how we can counteract potential catastrophes.
Oh yeah, I have AT&T, and that day was a really weird day. Not being able
Right.
to communicate with my family, anything, it was bizarre. So great research that you're doing there. Anything else before we let you guys go as we head into April 8th? I know we've already mentioned the possibility of clouds, but is there anything else, any other things that we should let our viewers know?
Well, first off, enjoy the day. Be prepared for anything. One thing about eclipses, one thing about any kind of research in the natural world is be ready to pivot, but also be very safe about it. I know that some people are super interested and ready to go anywhere they possibly could to do it, but be safe on the roads. If you're traveling, don't just go out there willy-nilly. Be prepared. Be prepared for anything. Be prepared for traffic. Be prepared about gas. Be prepared to watch a partial eclipse from a motel if you need to. But be really careful. Don't stare at the sun with your unaided eyes. Make sure that you've got your solar glasses on, except during absolute totality. And remember, be present. Put down your phones and enjoy the moment. Enjoy it for what it is and listen all around you, even if it is cloudy.
Yes, it's definitely going to be an experience. So take that moment to just be in the moment, be there with your friends, your family. The phones, they can wait. They're not necessary. This moment and having those memories and having those experiences, that's really what's worth it. And you'll appreciate it in the long run.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Antoinette and Dr. Johnston, thank you again, and we're looking forward to it. We're hoping that Mother Nature will part the skies for us. Allison's also our meteorologist. What does the forecast look like right now?
I know it's not looking so great. It looks like we will have cloud cover. It just kind of depends on how thick the clouds will be. So they might be thin, they might be a little bit thicker, but Dr. Johnston said it's still going to be a really good event. So you'll still see, like she said, a lot of the effects of it if you don't get to see the full sun. So I think that's a great way of looking at it, and just embracing the moment. Like you said, your iPhone is not going to get a good view of it. Just don't even try. NASA's got you covered on that. And of course, we'll have coverage. We'll keep you updated on weather and events that are happening around town on CBS mornings from 4:30 to 7 a.m. CBS Austin this morning, I should say. And then
Yeah.
JC, we have that special noon show.
Yeah, we do. We do. We don't have a noon show every day, but we have one on April 8th just to get you covered and get you ready for it at noon, sponsored by Abacus. So thank you so much for them for doing that. Again, thank you so much for joining us. We can't wait. It's going to be a really good day.
Yeah, excited to see where your research, what you get from Monday's event. That'll be fun to watch, Antoinette.
Yes.
All right. Enjoy it. Thank you guys. Bye.
Thank you.